Well, I finally made the last payment on this car and I own it outright. So the big question is, do I sell it? Do I keep it? I'm Frugal Tesla Guy. I'm going to weigh out those options and also tell you about my overall experience with the car and how it's doing and my future plans as I move forward. Well, I never thought this day would arrive. After over 120,000 miles driving this car and 72 car payments later, the car is paid off. And the bank that was gracious enough to give me the bank loan or the car loan sent me the title. So I own this car outright. And it's usually around this time, over 100,000 miles or after 6 years or so, people start thinking they're ready for a new car. So you start weighing out, do I want to trade it in? Do I want to keep it? But before I start weighing out those options, I want to briefly tell you about my overall experience with this car. I think about 6 years ago when I first got it. And you step on the lot and you're thinking, wow, what an amazing car. And I think about that classic, you park the car in a parking lot and then you walk away from the car and you look back and you just look at it and you think, wow, that's my car. You see, Tesla has always been, since the announcement of the Model S, it's been my dream car. And then of course, when they announced the Model 3 being more affordable at $35,000, I thought this could be attainable. But when I think about the cars that I've had before this, they were average $30,000. This car, after tax, title, license, was $56,000. So you can imagine the sticker shock. But I did what I could to make this happen. And I have absolutely no regrets. Sure, 6 years later, I don't necessarily every time look back at the car and look at it in amazement, but every once in a while I'll still do that and think it still looks pretty great. So overall, I've been really happy with the car and I really can't complain. I have never been more happy with a car and have honestly, kind of a little teaser, no reason to sell this car because it still has a lot more miles in it. And I think we can really get a lot more miles out of it. So let's talk about how the car is held up. We're going to start with the exterior, then we're going to take you on to the inside and see how it's aged as well. So let's start with the exterior of the car. So as we just look at the car in general, without really just closely looking at it, I still think it looks pretty great. Now, there are a few things in there, user error, my stupid mistakes, that there are a few dents in the car. Number one, on the driver's side, a few years ago, I have a bike rack that was leaning against the garage wall. For some reason, it decided to tip over and hit the side of the car, and lo and behold, I've got a dent in it. And just recently, in the back of the car, I had to move the teardrop trailer, and I had to hitch it up to the Tesla. And I don't know what I was thinking, I don't know what happened, but I basically ran the rear bumper into the trailer. It not only caused a dent, but also a crack, an actual crack in the bumper. It could be worse. I'm not happy about it, but I think it's something that could be fixable and it should be okay. Otherwise, you've got your typical curb rash from the wheels, and as you know from a recent video, those wheels, you can cover up that curb rash with wheel covers. I got those from EV Base. I'll put that in the description below. Now on the front, it's just a bug magnet. Now I just recently had it washed, so they did a pretty good job. But I highly recommend anyone who gets a brand new Tesla to get at the very least, a front PPF to protect the paint from any scratches, from any chips, things of that nature. So I do have a front PPF kit on here after about 2 years, so there are some chips in the paint, but otherwise the front of the car looks great. Again, thanks to that front PPF kit. I'll show you a link on how you can install these on your own through Test Bros. They've got a great deal on the front PPF kit and they show you how to do it. It's a little bit of work, but well worth every cent and every hour you put into putting in that front bumper or front PPF kit. Outside of that, I think the car looks great. It's not 100% original. There are a few things that I did. I did the chrome delete. The original Tesla Model 3s have the chrome trim. I decided to do the chrome delete, which I also got from Test Bros. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Also from EV Base, I put this on here, this nice carbon fiber spoiler in the back. I think it looks really nice. Of course, it's reserved for the Performance Model 3, so it's a little bit of a tricking you a little bit here, but I think the overall look is nice. So really, when it comes down to it, the exterior of the car really still looks pretty good. After 6 years of wear and tear, you're gonna have that, but overall, I just had the car washed. It still shines up nicely, cleans up nicely, and I do like that Chrome Delete. But there are those of you that may like the original Chrome. It just depends on your personal style. So let's go on inside the car and see how the wear and tear is inside the car as well. So I get in the car and just look around. After I cleaned it and it looks great, I've cleaned it up, the car looks great. Now, if you look a little bit more closely, you will see signs of your typical wear and tear. One of the first things I'd like to point out and bring up is the glove box. I don't know if it's just the earlier models or what, but the material of the glove box is not scratch resistant. So you get scratches on there, you get scuffs, and they're permanent. They don't go away. So you've always, no matter how much you clean it, no matter what you try to do, you've got that permanent damage to it. But I've always had a wrap on the center console. That was one of the first things I did. So, you know, you can always make that look nice and fresh by just adding a new wrap on it. They're not very expensive. You can just replace them every year or so, and it just kind of adds another look to your car. I've also put a wrap here on the dash, on the front dash here. And looking at the dash in general in the front, it doesn't look like it's showing any signs of age, of 6 years sitting in the sun. The sun is brutal out here in Northern California, so it's really held up quite well. When I look at everything else, one other thing that stands out, and this is something I was thinking about, I don't know if it's just me, but my steering wheel looks a bit shiny to me. I was in a Model 3 not too recently, a newer one, and the steering wheel didn't look as shiny. It's nothing that's really bothering me a whole lot. I just noticed it. It just seems to be a little bit more shiny, and maybe that's just normal after several years of ownership of the car. And then, you know, really honestly, I don't see anything when I look around the car that just completely and totally stands out. Again, the main thing is the glove box, the steering wheel, really, and a couple of other things. One thing is, this is just, you know, my son got in the car several years ago with his skateboard in the front seat, and his skateboard, when he closed the door, hit the side door, and it made a permanent scratch on the side of the door. Is it the end of the world? No, but it's just your typical stuff. We all know, if you have kids, you know what it's like. The back of the seats, since I'm not back there, I'm not seeing it, but the back of the seats get scuffed up too, especially when you got kids. They're kicking the seats, the works, right? And of course, those, you know, trips to Home Depot, you put the seats down, you put things in the back, camping trips, so you know you can bump up against those seats and scuff them up as well. So you can scuff up those back seats, and that's really about it. But otherwise, I think, you know, this armrest still looks good. The seats still look good. You know, one of the things that I looked at before I started recording this is there are a few wrinkles in parts of the seat, but nothing that bad. And as far as any wear, you know, sometimes you get that, you know, some of the material wears down. I've got none of that here in these cars, both in my seat, the passenger seat, or the back seat. So again, I could sit here and just keep looking at this and go, is there anything that just really stands out? And no, there isn't. After 6 years of ownership of this car, minus your typical wear and tear, this car has held up beautifully. I don't know, I felt like I maybe had to work that in the video somehow, but yes, the auto opening and closing frunk. But okay, so we talked about the overall experience with the car, how the exterior and the interior has held up, and I think it's really done quite well. So then you go on to the next level. How has the battery held up? So that's the next question. You know, we hear about battery degradation and people get so frustrated with that. So here's how the battery is held up. After 120,000 miles, when I first bought the car, it had 310 miles of range. Now for a short period of time, I'd say about 6 months, 8 months after I purchased the car, there was a software update that bumped that range up to 325 miles. There was something they did with the software that bumped up that efficiency, giving it a little bit more range. So for a short period of time, when I would charge the car to 100%, it got up to 325. But for all intents and purposes, let's just start with the 310 mile range that the car had when I initially got it. It's a long range rear wheel drive. All right, so that's what this car is. That's the model of this car at 310 miles when it first got the car. Now when I charge the car to 100%, it charges to about 265 miles. I know some of you, after you heard those numbers, some of your jaws may have dropped. And that seems like a lot. And quite honestly, when you look at it, it kind of is. But that's after 6 years, that's after 120,000 miles. And that's a little under 15% battery degradation. Is that more than normal? I can't say for sure. Is it less than normal? I don't know. I'd say it's probably somewhere within that normal range. I could do some research, but quite honestly, it doesn't concern me. It's not an issue. See, the thing is, what you've got to do to get yourself away from this, how many miles does my battery have? Set your battery to show you percent and not miles, because that way you're not worried about it anymore. So that's what I've done. It's kind of just set it and forget it. It's not a big deal. It's going to be what it's going to be. And unless it's something that's a massive, massive drop or a battery failure, the warranty is going to cover that. So I'm not concerned about that. Now, another thing that I will say this is that I've gone on a lot of road trips with this car since day one. You'll see a lot of my road trips on my channel, especially in the early days, really helping to promote how Teslas in particular are great road trip cars with the Tesla infrastructure as far as the charging is concerned. And even 6 years ago, when there were a lot less charging stations for Tesla, it's more than doubled, tripled, quadrupled to where it was 6 years ago. It's amazing when you see how many chargers there are compared to 6 years ago. But again, having gone on so many road trips, I can tell you this, I haven't noticed that drop. It doesn't feel like the battery has dropped and changed and has degraded, let's just put it that way. And maybe it's because it's been a gradual decrease. It wasn't 310, then overnight to 265. But bottom line is this, I just recently went on a road trip with this car. We went down to Southern California from Northern California, and it was a long trip. There were a lot of us, I was in the car, my wife was in the car, my son, the dog. Now here's the thing, Tesla plans everything out for you. You take your final destination and it will take you to any charging stop that you need, how long it needs to be, which averages 15 to 20 minutes of charge, and then you're good to go to the next charging station. What I notice is that typically I will drive anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours before I need to charge. And quite honestly, I like that. I like the fact that after 2 hours, give or take, I'm forced to take a break. That's safer driving. And I'm forced to take a 15 to 30 minute break. It's nice. You get out, you stretch your legs, you take a break, you get something to eat, you maybe get something to drink, take the dog out for a walk, everyone gets a little break. It's great. And since we saw this gradual from 310 to 265, maybe that's the other reason why I haven't really noticed it. But on the daily driving side of it, you're never going to notice it. And from a road trip standpoint, you might notice it. But personally for me, I haven't. I don't feel as though I can't take this thing on road trips because it only gets 265 mile range. You know, you think about the standard range back in the day with the Model 3, it was about 265 miles. And it was deemed a good car to go on road trips. Now, sure, I could get a new Model 3 and get, with the all-wheel drive, a little over 340-mile range. And if I get the rear-wheel drive, you're talking over 360-mile range. So yeah, there are those advantages, and I can see how that would probably be a nice advantage. And you might be able to, instead of driving for 2.5 hours, maybe drive over 3 hours. It depends on your personal needs. But for me, I'm still very happy with the health of the battery. Some of you may be just looking at me, shaking your head, saying, you've been bamboozled by Tesla, you're being fooled, that you've been scammed. I don't see it that way, because this is still a good car, and it's still good for road trips. So that's kind of the long and short of the battery degradation and my overall thoughts of it. So now we go into, what are my plans? Well, I don't plan on getting rid of this thing anytime soon. Number one, I've got FSD on this car. I was able to get it for $5,000 years ago, and I don't want to lose that. Now, there are offers, I've seen them over the years, where you can trade your car in for a new one, and sometimes the special offer will be that you can transfer your FSD to the new car. But I don't know if that's necessary. I like not having a car payment. As I mentioned earlier, this is the most expensive car I've ever purchased, and it's nice not having that big car payment. My wife's car is paid off. We don't have a car payment in our household, and it's a great feeling. It's been a long time since I've had that. So for me, I want to keep this. And in about a year to a year and a half, I want to think about maybe getting an electric truck. Now, is it going to be the Cybertruck? Maybe. Will it be the F-150 Ford Lightning? Maybe. The Rivian? Maybe. The new Chevy that came out? Maybe. I don't know. I'm doing all the research on that. But what I do know is this, that I enjoy the Tesla infrastructure. And any electric car that I get has got to be able to charge in the Tesla charging network. So, do I maybe instead look at the new Tesla Model Y? Sure, that could be a possibility, but I like the utility of a truck. I like having a truck bed. I like being able to tow things if I need to, say a camper trailer or something of that nature. And the Model Y, I think, will be able to tow what I would need to tow, but the utility of a truck, having a truck bed, it won't have that. Maybe the side could be maybe just getting a trailer that I can tow that would act like a truck bed, because I don't typically need a truck bed. But I also like, if I go on a rough, dirt road, maybe having a more durable truck would be better than a Tesla Model Y. So there are a lot of things for me to consider. But bottom line, this car will always stay in this household. And once I do decide to upgrade or go to a different car or a truck, my wife is going to take over the Tesla Model 3. She loves this car just as much as I do. There's nothing more than she wants than to have this to be her daily driving car. So that is it. That's the overall plan with this car. I'm going to keep it. I have no plans to ever sell it. I'm going to drive this thing until the battery is degraded down to 0. And I think that will make for some good content to show that these older cars with higher mileage are still good cars. And I've got more road trips planned for this thing, and I am not at all concerned about it just dying on me in the middle of the road. So that's going to do it for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Should I sell the car? Should I keep it? What would you do in this situation? This has been an amazing car. This has been a fun ride too. I've enjoyed having this channel. I haven't been contributing as much lately because I have a new business. It's been really taking a lot of my time, but when I can, I'm going to continue to contribute to this channel and do what I can. And I appreciate those of you that have followed me over the years and continue to follow me. This has been a fun ride. Let's keep it going. I just, again, won't be contributing as much content as I used to, but I'll try to do what I can in the months and the years to come. Well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and stay positively charged.